Welcome to Quail's Knitting Nest. My name is Joy. Janet's not here today, but I have the privilege of having my friend Margie here. I am so excited to have you. You're such a beautiful knitter. I can't wait. So I wanted to ask you, do you remember when we first met?
I think my mom had gotten tickets to go to the Pottstown Knit Out as she lived here. And that's how I met you.
At the Knit Out.
At the Knit Out.
Yeah. Do you remember how long ago that was? It's been a while.
Yeah, it was probably early 2000s, 2005, 2006, 7.
Oh, okay. Because it started in 2004, so it was...
Okay, probably around 2000. I started knitting in 2003, so I'd probably been knitting around 5 years. So.
Okay. So you just started in 2003, huh? Wow. And I started in 2000, so you were not far behind me. You have gone way beyond me, though.
Oh, I don't think so at all. But I always painted, always drew, always crafted, and went to art school, and was a graphic designer for years. But I never stopped making things. I sewed, and then back in 2003, I was doing cooking demonstrations and went to a house, was doing a demonstration, and the women that were there were all knitting these novelty scarves, you know, with the eyelash, the funky yarn, you know, just 8 stitches, skinny little scarves.
Right.
Wasn't very pleased with women, but I was really intrigued by what they were making. So on the way home, I decided, well, if they can do it, I can do it.
Sure.
I'm going to learn how to knit. And called up a friend, and I said, you knit, teach me how to knit. She said, I don't have time right now. Go over to Michael's and buy one of those kits.
Oh.
Which I did.
Yep.
That day. And by the end of the evening, I could do a long tail cast on and do the knit stitch, and I couldn't figure out how to purl. And it was driving me absolutely crazy. So I called my friend the next day, and I said, or that night, and I said, I can't figure out how to purl. And she said, well, there's a shop in Lansdale and not too far, and call her. And I did. She scared me half to death. But I loved her, and she showed me, of course, I brought in curtain cording.
Okay.
Because I thought, you know, it's thick and stiff, and I'll be able to see the pathway better. That did not go over real well with her, but anyhow, I learned how to purl, and I was off and running.
So what was scary about her? Was she intimidating? Or
yeah.
Yeah.
Very tall. I'm not. Older. She's now one of my dearest friends, and I ended up coming to work for her in the later years of her store being open. And I still see her almost every Saturday.
Oh, wow. That's great. That's great. Now, I guess I did not know that you were a graphic designer. That explains a lot, actually.
I don't know whether that's good or bad.
It's interesting to hear people's backgrounds and how they get into things.
I was always making things, or painting or drawing or sewing. I had a long history of sewing way before I knitted.
See, and I wasn't like that at all. I didn't make anything.
No?
I was not
How
crafty or creative.
How did you get into knitting?
When my girls started preschool and I had 2 hours a day to myself, I just decided I wanted to learn stuff. So I first started with sewing, and I couldn't get along with my machine at all.
I understand. Some of those older machines were problematic.
Oh my. So I gave up, and then I went to Walmart and bought a Learn to Knit kit. Probably
the same one. It had needles in it, and yeah.
My mother-in-law was a knitter, and she made us sweaters every year for Christmas.
Wow.
For a long time. And I loved her sweaters, and that's kind of what inspired me. But I didn't live near her. So I bought the kit and taught myself how to knit. And yeah, that's how I got it. And I just loved it. Like, as obviously you do
Fish
too.
to water.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
That's great.
it's opened up a little bit of creativity in me because I don't feel like I have that creativeness, but I'm always altering patterns like you are.
Well, no one in my family was creative, just me. But my mother's mother used to sew and knit and made a lot of her clothing. It had just skipped my mother.
Yes.
And she initially, especially with the sewing, she was not a fan of it at all. Didn't really want her mother teaching me how to sew when I was little.
Oh, really?
No, I
That's
think it was maybe a prestige thing that you could go and buy clothing, so why make it?
You didn't have to make it. You
know,
could buy it.
And that fear of, well, if you make it, it's going to look homemade.
Yeah.
We're so different nowadays, you know, that handmade is really prized.
Right.
No matter how simple it is or crooked the seams
It's been a whole, like, reversal. Yeah. Well, tell me what you're wearing.
So I am wearing a pattern, an old pattern from Jared Flood. It is called Stilwell. It is one of his older patterns. It's supposed to have a polo neck.
Oh, okay.
So this was totally re-engineered to have this. And this is done in some Rowan Lima, which is a discontinued yarn. It's incredibly soft.
Is it llama or alpaca?
It's alpaca. It's got a bunch of different fibers in it. It's a chainette yarn.
Stand up and show the bottom of it. Look at that. Beautiful.
So I like it because it's very tailored. It has a beautiful raglan seam here. And yeah.
Did the original pattern have the two colors, or did you add the purple and the pink?
It had one color background, one color work, and I added a second color to the color work.
I like it. I like the way the fades it purple to the pink and then back out again.
Yeah.
It draws the eye right into the center. It's really nice.
I love Pharaoh. I love stranded knitting. So
lovely. Well, my sweater I talked about actually in episode 2. It's called Norwegian Lusekofte by Kerin Dimeler-Laurence, and this was a Knit Picks kit that I bought.
wow.
This also has a bottom
Beautiful.
thing, and it's huge. It's like a dress on me.
It's oversized, but it's comfy.
Very comfy. It's also very warm. Even this is it's called Telemark. It was an old Knit Picks yarn which they discontinued, and it's sport weight, but it's knit at a tight gauge.
I was going to say that is really at a fine gauge.
So
it makes it warm.
Yeah, it's probably the warmest sweater that I own. So on cold days, like today's not too cold, but it's really windy out, and that makes it feel cold. So I put on my warm sweater to make me feel warm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful. I've always noticed with the Norwegian sweaters that they are knit at a very firm gauge. So the yarn that the sweater is drafted for may call for like sport weight, or the gauge. I'm sorry, the gauge is sport weight, but it's like a worsted
weight yarn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is actually sport weight, but it's very, like you said, tightly knit. I redid the sleeves because I didn't like the original sleeves that were with them, that came with the pattern.
What were the original?
It had a whole cuff on it, and it was folded over and hemmed. So it was very big and bulky around my wrist, and I didn't like it. So I ripped the whole thing out and did a nice, simple cuff.
Very nice.
And what did you bring to show us?
Well,
Margie's a prolific knitter, and she has beautiful sweaters. You are in for a treat.
This is fresh off of the needles. I should say the blocking board. Not sure that it's going to really show up.
Yeah, you can see it.
Can see
Yep.
it?
Yep.
Okay. It's called Magnolia by Camilla Vad, and hopefully I did not mess up her name. I think she is Norwegian. Could be. And she produces her own yarn, but I've never seen it. I think you can, mail order it. I use Cascade 220 fingering along with a strand of Shibui silk cloud.
Ooh.
So it is fuzzy and warm, and the bobbles do show up. But it has some very interesting shaping. So it is a top down. Instead of doing the increases at regular intervals, however, and you see those little puckers.
Yep.
This has you spreading out your increases so that you're never stacked on top of one another.
Okay.
And it just gave a really,
so it's really
beautiful,
subtle.
Very subtle. Very, very subtle. And even the sleeve, instead of increasing on either side of the marker, the sleeve has you only increase on one side. 3 rows later, you increase on the other side of the marker. So you're staggering those in. I don't know what the point of that is.
Since it's under your arm anyway.
Since it's under your arm, but it is interesting.
Huh.
Yeah. So, yeah. So that's the most recent.
Lovely.
Keep going.
Well, I'll show one of mine.
Good.
The most recent off my needles. This is from
Fibra
Norah's
Natura.
Vintage Afghan. Yeah. This is square number 10.
How many are there?
There are 20 altogether.
So you're halfway.
I'm halfway. Yep.
Wow. Are they all the same color?
So far, I have a big bag of yarn that Janet gave me that I'm pulling skeins out of. And I think there's enough of the brown to do the whole blanket, but I need to go back into the bag. I need to dump the bag out and see exactly what's left in there.
What yarn are you using?
This is Cascade Eco Wool.
Okay, I've used that.
It's really nice. It's blocking up nicely. It's lovely to work with. The only thing about it, I'm blocking each square as I go, and the water turns yellow when I block.
The dye's coming out.
Well, I don't know if it's dye. I mean, it's the Eco Wool. I think it's maybe the natural shade, or there's something in there. Maybe it's dye.
Lanolin?
I have no idea, but it's coming out yellow. So
interesting. And then you're keeping the stitches on
live, yeah.
live.
I'm gonna graft all the squares together.
Have fun.
Well, that's what I did with this blanket.
I actually like grafting.
Yeah.
So.
I did that with this blanket, and I was really happy with the way it turned out. So I'm gonna do the same thing with this.
That's beautiful too. Now you're gonna keep that blanket?
Yes, I plan on keeping it. Yeah.
My next show and tell is for a sweater, another Norwegian, that there's no way I could even ever conceive of pronouncing the real name of it. But after I had put this into my favorites, into my queue on Ravelry, as soon as I saw it. And everybody kept saying, will you translate this into English?
Oh.
Because it was only in Norwegian.
Okay.
No response that I saw. No response. No response. Around a year and a half later, I went to look at it again.
And there was?
There it was.
Yay!
She had finally put it into English. I bought it that day.
So what's the name of the pattern?
The English translation is Forest Nymph Cardigan.
Oh, okay.
So, because again, I mean, can
It's
you
all,
read
no,
Skognymfejakke? It is by Lene Tøsti.
Okay.
Once again, I apologize if I murdered that name. And I used a gradient set Marianated yarns, the Scrumptious HT, and a solid from Marianated. And then I have vintage glass toggle. Vintage. Oh. And it's just kind of the...
Take it up close so you can see the buttons. I like how it fades into almost nothing here at the bottom because the last color is so...
The last color is so close that you're doing this strand of work going like, I don't know why I'm doing this because nobody's going to ever see it anyhow. But it gives just enough of a little fleck.
Yeah.
Like a little, almost like a sparkle.
Just a subtle accent.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's part of the fade. I mean,
it's part of the fade.
It works great. And then you have another thing from using the same yarn dyer.
Same from Marianated. And this is it's a cowl or a cape. You can wear it like this as a cowl or
over the shoulders a little bit.
Pull it down more like a cape. And yeah. So I got this at Woolen Folk at Rhinebeck. And I heard,
this past year?
Yeah, just this past year. And from the Marianated booth, and the designer, who is Carolyn Bloom, she was in the booth. She was so lovely. They had Marianated had put the pattern out, or put the image out the day before Woolen Folk at Rhinebeck, and I was like, oh yeah. The last thing I need is another cowl or cape or anything like that.
Was she wearing
I'm getting it.
Yeah. Oh.
it seemed like it was perfect for me. It was like a little fussy, something. It uses embroidery. So that's all embroidered on
the crosses.
Top. Yes.
So you do stranded knitting.
You do 1x1 knitting. It is as simple. It looks really complicated. It's the simplest thing in the world. Even when you make stupid mistakes on it, like I did. I think it was an 8-day project, which would have been a 6-day project had I not had to pull things out because I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
It's just like 1x1 stranded knitting, and then and it doesn't look like anything when you're all done. It's really boring. And then you just go
add in
and
the crosses,
cross over, and it like, wow.
And is each one a different color in the...
So this is also a gradient set.
Okay.
It's a 6
1, 2,
skein
3, 4,
mini
5.
gradient set.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's again, you can't see the 6th color in here.
Actually, it looks almost identical to the background color on the top.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing, but
it's fine though.
Yeah,
I mean it's part of the gradient.
Yeah, but look how much difference there is. But if I can start picking it apart, that would have been a complaint of mine.
Yeah, one more color between those two.
And then this one would have been up there.
Yeah, I see that.
But I can get really picky about things. But I do love it.
Oh, that's beautiful. This is a headband.
Nice.
And it is double knit.
I love it.
And this is actually a pattern from, you might know her. Her name is Jan Watson. She used to teach at the Knit Out on the regular. And she lives in Philadelphia. So I know her personally, but she put this pattern out this past year. And I finally got around to making it.
Did you enjoy the double knitting?
Yeah, it's fun.
It is fun.
Yeah. I know you've done some large projects double knitting. I haven't done any large ones. I've done a cow and a hat, and now this, I haven't done any blankets. Yeah, it's fun.
For your dear friend's daughter as a baby blanket. But if anybody is deserving of something like that, she was.
And this one's, like, if you're doing double knitting, this is about as easy as it gets, because it's only 15 stitches wide, and it just repeats. The repeat is just one star, and then it repeats all the way around.
And what I like about it is, unlike stranded knitting, which wouldn't really have much stretch, the double knitting,
you're right, it does.
Stretches.
Yeah.
So for a headband,
definitely,
looks great.
That's true. You know, I hadn't thought about that, the stretchiness of it, but that's really true.
I learned to knit stranded on a headband and had to give it away because it didn't
too small.
Fit. No, it was too big.
Oh, too big. Oh, okay.
But usually I strand too tightly, but that one first learning. But that looks great.
Yeah, so I'm happy with it. All right, what you got next?
This is called the Aviara Pullover by Irina Anikiva. It uses Plucky Knitter Sport, and which I almost got trampled to death trying to get.
Oh my.
Well, Plucky Knitter had vended at Vogue Live in New York City one time.
Oh, that was the only time they were there?
Yeah, as far as I know, it was the only time it was there. And when the marketplace opened on Friday night, I made a beeline for the Plucky booth because I had to go see what all the hubbub was about.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, everybody else had the same idea.
Oh, wow.
And I was crouched down in the corner looking at this color. And there were so many people crowding around me that it knocked me off my feet. People were throwing skeins to each other, like throwing them because you couldn't get up close. It was insane. I would never do that again.
Wow.
But I enjoyed knitting with it.
Now, it's coming up kind of blue on screen, but it's really kind of a deep
very
teal. Yeah.
This pattern was written for a drop shoulder, and with that ridge that you see down here coming across the bicep of the arm. I don't love drop shoulders, period, let alone one that has a neon sign pointing to the biggest part of my arm. So I redrafted this for a set-in sleeve, and as I have very narrow shoulders, it really took a lot of work. And then that's not too bad though, but then you have to figure out how the sleeve is going to go in, because as written, the sleeve has no sleeve cap.
Right. So you have to make the sleeve cap.
So now you have to do the short rows for the sleeve cap, but it ended up.
So did you pick up and do the sleeves top down?
I did.
Yeah. Nice.
I did. So
lovely. It's gorgeous.
One of my favorite sweaters, actually.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
I can
not
see
very
why.
heavyweight.
I have one other thing to show. So this is a cabled scarf with cables on both sides.
Oh, reversible cables. Yeah. Is this a Lily Chin?
No, this is my own design, which I worked up in case I end up teaching this class again at Knitter's Day Out. Because the scarf I taught last year was a little bit, I think, too hard for just learning. So this one's a little more simple.
It's a beautiful design. What yarn is this?
This is Nashua Creative Focus Worsted.
Is it alpaca? No mohair. I would have guessed that this had mohair in it.
It says it's 75 wool, 25% alpaca. This is discontinued, I think.
Very
It was
pretty.
something I had in my stash. Squishy and soft, but it's also splitty. It's a single ply, so it's kind of, it's splitty. It's easy to split the ply, and it sheds like crazy. I don't think I could actually wear it. Well,
really?
If I did, I would have to wear it on my nylon coat and not my wool coat, because I had it once on my wool coat, and then when I took it off, my coat was covered with this, with the yarn pairs.
It's really beautiful, though.
I love it. I'm really happy with it. This took
very squishy.
Almost 3 skeins. Yeah. Well, and that's also, it's not only the yarn, but also the nature of the fabric because of that. It's very dense because it's basically double knit.
Yeah. Well, how do you do that?
So it's slip stitch cables, and they're slipped over top of the garter background.
Ah.
Yeah. So there's 2 rows of knitting for every cable stitch that you see. So it's very condensed.
Okay. That explains it.
Yeah.
Now, do you use singles that often? I almost never use them.
No. I never use them either. I just happened to have it in my stash, and I knew it would make a great scarf. The white, it would really show the cable pattern. So that's why I used it. But yeah, I'm not a single person either.
No, I like when it has a nice twist to it.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it doesn't pill quite as much.
Right.
Or shed.
Yeah. Well, some depending what's in them. Some alpacas and mohairs tend to shed, though, no matter how well they're twisted.
That is true. That is true. Well, I'll show you the next thing.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of shawls, not just sweaters. And I just brought one shawl. And this is called Pandora by Bitsy Cohen. Bitsy is a friend of mine, and it uses her yarn, which is called Squish Lace. I think it's all merino. And this has over 3,500 beads to it.
Wow.
Put on with a crochet hook.
Most of them are at the bottom here, right?
Yeah, the bottom and right
Some at the
up
top.
Here at the top. But bottom definitely. And so it has terrific
weight to it.
drape to it.
So it's her yarn, and she designed the pattern?
Yes, this was the test knit for her.
Wow.
I did a test knit for her.
Lovely.
But, yeah, I
Now,
love
how
it.
do you know her?
Bitsy and I were in a lace knitting group up in Allentown area. That's how I met her. She's a wonderful person.
Neat. Wow, that's gorgeous.
So, and she does some beautiful designs and has some beautiful yarn. She actually asked me what color I would like, and then she dyed this for me.
That's nice. Yeah.
I do love gray, and this is like a platinum.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
Has nothing to do with my hair at all. I get asked a lot how I store my shawls, because like I said, I have a few, maybe more than a few. The last thing when you're reaching for a shawl that you want to do is have to go and steam out the creases. I take my shawls and I lay them out perfectly flat. And then I have some acid-free tissue paper, and I lay that on top of the shawl, fold the sides in over the tissue paper, fold the bottom up over the tissue paper, and then just kind of make a few more folds as neatly as possible so that I have a nice little package. And then I can stack them up on the shelf, and they do not wrinkle, they don't crease, and I don't have to worry about, and like, you know, if you hung them, they're going to stretch out of shape.
That's true, yeah.
So by staying on the shelf like this or in a drawer like this, the tissue paper will keep them from creasing and wrinkling.
That is a great tip. Thank you for sharing that. I had never thought about that, but that's great.
How do you store your shawls?
I just wad them up and throw them on the shelf.
Do you ever have to steam them out then, or you just wear them as is?
Well, when they're wadded up, they usually don't get creases. You know what does get creases, though, sometimes is my sweaters.
Yeah.
Because I'll fold them and put them in the drawer, and then with sweaters tacked on top of sweaters, then they end up with creases.
Yeah.
But my shawls, I haven't yeah, because I just like, I bundled it. I literally just throw it in there on the shelf.
Well, I can have like 6 or 7 shawls all stacked up on top of one another, so they really probably could get creased.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweaters, I have the same problem. I get some creases in them.
Yeah. Yeah, show us your next sweater.
All right. So the next sweater is called Hearten by Kim Hargraves. And this was a really, I think, kind of a popular sweater because Fruity Knitting,
Yep.
she had done
made
it,
one.
and it was absolutely exquisite. That's what got me making it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just a, you know, it's a cropped sweater. I used Rowan Soft Yak DK. I might have picked up a few too many stitches on the front of the band. Because it tends to like buckle a little bit, but I took some lace weight yarn that matched the color. I do have a little bit of a yarn problem. I have a few skeins. So it wasn't any real surprise that I had a yarn that matched the color. And I wove it into the very edge. I don't know that that shows up, but weaving it right into the edge and tying it off made it so that this edge can't stretch out anymore and wobble anymore. Yeah. So that's Hearten. So I didn't want everybody to think that I was really super serious. And actually my my dear friend suggested last night when she knew I was heading here, she goes, "Well, you have to show your Yeti." I'm like, no. So this is Yeti.
Oh, he's adorable.
Yeti is ready for bed. So he's wearing his little union suit and he has his bunny slippers on.
So cute.
And he's just really, really silly. And I was going to give him to my youngest son as a joke. He's 27 now. I made this a couple of years ago, and he took one look at it and went, "Get that the hell out of here! It's creepy."
Oh, he thought it was creepy,
He
huh?
thinks it's creepy. I think it's funny.
Yeah,
So yes, I make all sorts of things. That's Yeti for bed.
Hold on, something I just noticed is that, so he has these like little eyelids on the bottom covering the bottom of his eye. That's so, it's an interesting detail. Wow, that's so cute.
The last thing to show is my pandemic blanket. And this is the Indian Nights blanket by Janice Hope.
And she has quite a few blanket patterns, right?
She does. She had Persian
Dreams.
Persian Dreams is a really big one, and it's a fascinating make. It's almost all center out, so you cast on here, and you work out. You leave the stitches live, and repeat. So same with these. When you get to these, you steek the middle ones. You steek down the middle of the square, the center out square.
Okay.
And then the borders, you'll see these are birds. These are elephants.
Oh, okay. Elephants and birds.
Elephants and birds. And these are done as one very long strip.
Oh, wow.
I think I did the edging differently. The edging covers up all the steeks.
Nice little hem around the
Yes,
edge.
turned edge. And some details about that would be that, I did it in Knit Picks palette.
Okay.
It was a kit, which I don't normally do anything like that. little frustrating because I have something like 20 balls left over from the kit.
Oh.
It was way too much. But it's 17 colors. It took me over 4 months. Because my son asked me for, give me really details, Mom, I was able to figure out that I had something like 410 hours on it. 300,051. 716 stitches to the body, plus 8,060 stitches to graft.
And you gave me a sideways look about grafting my blanket.
And then I said, luckily I like grafting. Yes, it does fit very nicely over a full-size bed. A little bit small for a queen-size bed. And where does it live?
In the closet?
Yeah.
Oh no!
I'm too scared of using it.
Well, to be honest, I mean, I made something out of pallet and it started...
Pill?
Yes.
Did it pill? Yeah. I have a friend that's made some sweaters out of pallet and it pilled. So I just take it out every now and then. The wrong side is also really
beautiful.
Kind of beautiful.
It is.
So I'm really proud of this. It is my most favorite piece
de resistance.
And
I don't know how to say that.
Piece de resistance.
There you go.
And definitely took me the longest to make.
Well, I'm still amazed that you made it in only 4 months, however.
I didn't work on anything else in that 4 months.
You were very dedicated.
Very.
I have one acquisition. This is called Fibra Natura, maybe, from Cobblestone. Or maybe Cobblestone's the name of the... I'm not sure which.
The Fibra Natura would be the brand.
And the
Cobblestone is
the yarn.
The name of the yarn.
I went to visit my mother last month, and she has a yarn shop near her that I've never been to called Finnegan's Run. It's in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Oh, that's such a cute town.
It is, yes. So we finally had a chance to go to the yarn shop. And this was an interesting yarn there that I had never seen before, so I picked up a ball of it. It's actually, I think it's...
612 yards.
Yeah, and it's 200 grams, does it say?
7 ounces, 200 grams.
Yeah, so it's reasonably priced for that price point, and it's a superwash. So it's kind of like a spin cycle. It has that marled changing.
It's very spin cycle-y.
Yeah.
It's nice and soft.
Yeah.
What are they saying that this is a fingering? I'm looking at the gauge. 22 to 25. More sport.
So
that is pretty.
Yeah. Isn't that lovely? I have no idea what I'm going to do with it yet, and I kind of feel like maybe I should have gotten a solid to go with it. But they didn't have any corresponding solids. And they had only like 1 or 2 skeins of each color. And they had maybe 6 colorways.
So how many skeins did you get?
Just this one.
Just the one?
Yeah.
But you don't know what you're going to do with it.
No. It might make a good yoke or something. I don't know. We'll see.
It's very pretty.
But it's also superwash. So I'm like... But it doesn't feel like your normal superwash.
No, it's nice and woolly.
Yeah.
But it's still really soft.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. I don't know what yet, but I'm sure something will come to me eventually. I seem to be that way. Like, I'll find the pattern to fit the yarn. I don't usually buy the pattern and then get the yarn. I usually get the yarn and then find a pattern to go with it.
And I usually get the pattern
and then get the yarn.
Yeah. I usually am looking for, but then I make mistakes. I get the yarn that I think is going to work. Like I got Hedgehog Sporty. Now you would think that Hedgehog Sporty would be a sport weight.
Okay.
It's not.
And?
Fingering.
Oh,
so,
it's fingering.
Yeah, so I bought that yarn for a specific project, and it's like, no, that doesn't work.
And sometimes what you think, like for example, on my festive sweater, I bought, or the lamb's wool, and I thought it was going to be DK, but it actually worked up 5 stitches to the inch, more like worsted.
Really?
So I ended up redoing all my numbers to make the pattern work. So sometimes, and it was in the DK section, and it was listed as DK, but when I knit it, it was knitting worsted, so it just like filled out and bloomed after I blocked it. Yeah.
There are certain brands that I know that will do that. So anything from Ann Hansen, from Knit Spot, that's going to bloom. So if you try to make one of her patterns that calls for her yarn with a different yarn, you might be a little frustrated.
Ah, yeah. So, and that's, you live and learn, right?
Exactly.
In terms of what I'm working on, my friend Jorse requested a shawl, and she said pink. And I just happen to have in my stash this pink, which I bought from Painted Spring last fall at Knitter's Day Out.
I think this is pretty close to the Pantone color of the year, isn't it?
Is it? Oh, I don't know.
It's like hooker pink.
Is it? I don't pay attention, so I have no idea.
Magenta-y pink.
Yeah,
it's beautiful pink.
yeah. So what I decided to do was I started a pattern called the Norah Woven Stitch Shawl, and I did not like how it was turning out. And I've always liked the night shift, the way those colors work, but I didn't want the night shift shape. It's an asymmetric triangle, and I wanted this like more normal
symmetrical triangle.
Except this has longer, so it increases faster on the edges than it does in the middle. So it will be a long, shallow triangle, which I'm hoping it will be sort of scarf-like.
I was going to say, they're easy to wear, because then you can just wrap them around.
Yeah. So that's what I'm shooting for. So I mashed up the two patterns. I took the shape from the woven stitch shawl, and I took the stitch pattern from the night shift, and I'm just alternating these two colors.
Very pretty.
The pink and the multi.
It's very soft.
It is.
What yarn is this?
It's Painted Spring Alpaca. So it's her own yarn, and she dyed it herself as well.
This is actually a company I haven't heard of.
Oh, she's out in central Pennsylvania somewhere. We're thinking about maybe going out there this spring after the babies are born.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll have to find out what's a good time to go out there.
Nothing cuter than alpacas.
I know, right? What are you working on?
So I'm working on another sweater. This is a summer sweater. It's called 7 Senses.
S-E-N-S-E-S?
S-E-N-S-E-S.
Okay.
And this is by Ann Hansen, not Hansen. So not Knit Spot.
Oh, okay.
This is,
That's
I
confusing.
think she's Danish or Norwegian or Swedish or something. Has a very pretty yoke.
Yeah, beautiful.
And an interesting treatment.
Detail at the bottom.
At the bottom, it's very, as you can see, it's very A-line. It has more or less, as written, it has a cap sleeve. I don't do cap sleeves, so
Make it a little
extending,
longer.
yes, like, you know, you gotta have
To
a
cover
sleeve
the
to cover
waddle.
the gush.
Yeah.
And then it will have an I-cord neck
Edging.
at the edging
Cute.
to match the bottom. And it's swingy and light, very, very lightweight.
Do you normally do like an A-line?
No, but summer tops where you really don't want anything hugging you.
Yeah.
I don't mind an A-line then, especially this is really going to swing out there and just like fall.
Cool you off.
Cool, one hopes. And I'm using Holtzgarn Coast, which is 55% lamb's wool and 45% cotton.
Oh.
So it's knit pretty loose. This blooms. So if you are doing an in-hand sewn project that calls for knit spot yarn, you could substitute this because this is going to, this is more similar.
Now, where did you buy this?
Directly from Holtzgarn. There are some sellers in the United States, but if you order directly from Holtzgarn, I think they're in Denmark, you get it very quickly. It's ridiculously inexpensive.
I've heard that, yeah.
Like, $5 or something. And I've done this whole sweater with 2 balls.
Oh my, wow.
So I'll probably have to tap into a 3rd. And you can hold this doubled for a lovely DK weight. So this is a fingering, maybe even a light fingering, but it makes for a weightless sweater.
I bet. Yeah, because that's one of the reasons I don't make summer sweaters is because they're usually too heavy, too hot. But something like this I might actually wear.
Yeah.
That's neat. All right, I'll keep that in mind. Have you used other besides the
this is actually my first time using it at all. But I have friends that have used it before.
Yeah.
So there's another one there's an all wool one that's really popular.
I've heard one is it called Super Soft? I've heard a lot about that yarn.
I don't know that it's all that soft though.
Right.
But compared to a lot of the Scandinavian yarns, it's soft.
It's all relative.
Yeah, and you can always wash it with a little hair conditioner to soften it up a little bit more too.
Well, this feels like it wouldn't be too itchy because you would want you wouldn't want to wear anything under this probably.
No, it looks, it's at a pretty loose gauge, but again, I steamed it this morning just a little bit. It hasn't been wet blocked where it's really going to be its true handle.
Yeah.
But the steaming already kind of fluffed up the fibers and filled it. I don't need to wear anything underneath.
So I hear you're taking a trip next month. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So 7 of us are joining another group and going to Wales, England in April. We are very excited. We are going to Wonderwool Wales, which is, I guess, Wales' largest fiber festival, and spending 8 days in Wales, and then we extended out a couple of days and going to London, where I'm actually going to have afternoon tea at the Ritz.
Oh, nice.
Looking forward to it.
Once in a lifetime.
And there is an exhibit at Kensington Palace where the future King of England lives, and there's an exhibit of them hoping to get to about royal fashion from through the centuries and how it has affected our choice of clothing today.
Interesting.
And I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, that's right up your alley.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all we have for you today.
I want to thank you, Joy, for having me.
Oh, thank you, Margie, for coming. I love to see, I see your knits on the computer screen, but it's so much nicer to see them in person.
And you're always so kind, you must live on Ravelry because the moment I post something, I upload, you comment. So it's appreciated.
I do. I'm on Ravelry a lot, I have to admit. It's my social media of choice.
Understood.
So thank you so much for joining us and have a great day. Bye-bye.